Welcome to The Explainer. Now, I want you to forget everything you think you know from dusty scrolls or faded hieroglyphs. Today, we're diving into a theory that reads history in a totally different language, a language that's written in these impossible cuts and precise grooves carved into the hardest stone on Earth.
So this is the theory of an engineer named Andrei Skliarov. And it all begins with a simple but really profound challenge. He basically asks us to just set aside our textbooks for a minute. He wants us to become detectives, to look at the physical evidence that really questions the official story of our past.
Okay, so here's the core argument, and it's actually pretty simple. The theory says the most reliable clues to some forgotten, super advanced civilization, they aren't in old myths or legends. Nope. They are physically preserved, right there for us to see in the cuts, the grooves, and the polished surfaces of these ancient megalithic structures. So the theory builds its whole case on three really specific types of evidence. And I want you to think of them like technological fingerprints, okay? Like they were left at a crime scene, and the only victim here is our conventional understanding of history. All right, first up, the first set of clues points to some seriously sophisticated machine tools. And let me be clear, we are not talking about your average hammer and chisel here. We're talking about something way more powerful, way more precise, and used on some of the hardest materials known to man. I mean, the precision is just staggering. Seriously, you go to a place like Carnac in Egypt, and you'll find these V-shaped grooves cut right into solid granite. And get this, they narrow to a point that's 7 times thinner than the sharpest tool a modern jeweler uses. The marks inside these cuts, they don't look like they were made by a spinning blade. It's more like a superheated knife just sliced through that rock like it was butter. Okay, so if you thought that was weird, the second category of evidence is even stranger. This one suggests that on some of these ancient sites, the stone wasn't cut at all. Instead, it was somehow manipulated while it was in a soft, malleable state. This quote here really paints a picture. It's talking about how they removed massive amounts of granite at the Aswan quarry in Egypt. And it doesn't look like quarrying. It looks more like someone came along with a giant spoon and just scooped out tons of granite while it was soft. It left behind these polished, curved surfaces. The source calls this Plasticine technology, and you see it everywhere, from these huge quarries down to small decorative blocks that look like they were literally molded by hand. All right, now for the third piece of evidence. And this one might be the most compelling of all, because it's microscopic. We're talking about tiny particles of the tools themselves, particles that got sheared off by just immense friction and heat and were left embedded in the very stone they were cutting. And here it is. This is the smoking gun. It's a highly complex alloy, packed with nickel and cobalt, and it's found embedded in worked stones in Egypt and in Peru. This stuff is perfectly designed for high-speed, high-friction cutting. Now think about that. Finding the exact same advanced non-terrestrial alloy on opposite sides of the world, that doesn't just challenge our history books. That suggests a single globe-spanning technological civilization that we've completely forgotten about. So, with all this physical evidence sitting right there on the table, the theory moves on from the what to the really explosive question of who. Who did all this, and why? I mean, if it wasn't ancient humans as we know them, then who was it? Well, the theory proposes that this incredible technology belonged to an advanced, off-world civilization. And for simplicity, we'll just refer to them as the gods. But here's the twist. These gods weren't some unified, happy family. According to this theory, they were a small band of exiles, and they were at war with each other. This timeline completely reframes some of the biggest moments in human history. Take the Neolithic Revolution, right? The moment we started farming. In this view, that wasn't some brilliant human idea. It was a project started by these gods simply to feed themselves. And the conflict between their factions? It eventually exploded into a massive war that left behind evidence of destruction so immense, I'm talking about places like the shattered fortress of Sacsayhuaman in Peru, that the only thing we can compare it to today is high-yield explosives. So after this devastating war, the winning faction, the enslavers, they took control. But that raises a question, right? If they saw humanity as just livestock, what resource were they trying to farm? The theory says it wasn't gold, it wasn't labor, it wasn't even food. It was something way more esoteric.
And here we get to the theory's central and honestly most disturbing claim. The argument goes like this. An advanced civilization wouldn't stop at mastering physical energy, like nuclear power. They'd also master the more subtle energies, the energies of life itself. And according to this theory, the absolute most potent release of that life energy happens at the exact moment a creature dies.
So when you look at it from this perspective, ancient ritual sacrifice, it's suddenly recast as this grim technological process. The prayers, they're not just about devotion. They're more like addressing a package to a specific recipient god. The prolonged suffering, it's not just random cruelty, it's a calculated way to maximize the emotional energy output right before the final harvest.
So what you end up with are two radically different interpretations of the same thing. On one side, you have the traditional view, sacrifice is a deeply religious, symbolic act. But on the other side, you have this theory's view. It's a cold industrial process where the victim is basically a biological battery, just drained of its power at the moment of death. Okay, so let's follow this logic. If this need for life energy was the #1 motivation for the ruling gods, well, the theory argues they would have completely restructured all of human society to get as much of it as possible.
And that leads to a radical reinterpretation of civilization itself. The theory argues that the birth of our first great cities, that wasn't just natural social evolution. No, it was a calculated design. Think about it. By forcing people into river valleys that required these massive, complex irrigation projects, the gods concentrated the population. These brand new cities became ruthlessly efficient farms for harvesting life energy through state-sponsored sacrifice, all on an industrial scale. So, let's put all the pieces together. What you get is this revised timeline, a human history that wasn't just driven by our own ingenuity, but by the needs and the conflicts of this powerful off-world civilization. And here's the really chilling part. It suggests that the systems of religion and sacrifice they created became so deeply ingrained in our cultures that they just kept running on autopilot, long after the gods themselves had left the building.
Look, this Sklarov theory it's provocative, to say the least. What it does is try to connect real physical anomalies, things you can go and touch, to this grand and pretty unsettling narrative. By asking us to just follow the tool marks, it challenges the very foundation of everything we've been taught about our history. And it leaves us with one big question. What other stories might be hiding right there, in plain sight?